You are now tuned in to the GNWY podcast.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the GNWY podcast. Do not forget to like, rate, subscribe, review, do all of the things so we can share and get everybody's purpose and story out more effectively. And today we have none other than QK Douglas. If you can, make some noise for QK, everybody. Yes. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Good. Yes.
Excellent. We are so excited that you are able to come. I'm finding out even before this whole thing started that you a jack of all trades. So
a little bit. Yeah.
If you want to give somebody or give everybody, kind of a brief rundown of what you do currently, and then we'll get into your whole story. So
yes. So that's funny. I always struggle with intros, like which part of me do I talk about, depending upon where I am. But my name is QK Douglas. I am a business consultant, also an attorney, and then I do some real estate investing and financial literacy teaching and educating. So those are the passions that are the most relevant and prevalent in my life right now. Yeah. Working with an assortment of different things in the legal space, and then a lot of business specific things on the business consulting side, as long as with a little bit of coaching.
Yes, that's what's up. Okay, so that's a lot for the viewers. Okay, so we're gonna, for one, have to break down each one. You know what I'm saying? So, where did this passion come from for the legal side of everything? First of all,
so my family's always told me that you were going to be a lawyer, because anytime that
straight out, you came out the womb, you're going to be a lawyer.
Young,
Let's
right?
Go.
They are always you're always trying to get into something or get out of something. You're always just talking yourself in or out of something.
Smooth talking. Let's go.
I just advocating. I call it advocating.
That's what we need to teach these kids is advocating.
Exactly.
Yes.
You're not slick mouth. You're advocating for yourself.
That's good.
Yeah, that's what I say anyway. But so from a young age, and then going through school, I am fortunate enough to be privileged in really doing well at school. Not just because of like I said, some people are like, oh, you're just really smart. Everyone's really smart, but I think there's something to having a certain skill set that will make you a little bit more successful in a school setting based off of how they set the standards there. And so I happen to be really good in those areas where it's talking about test taking, comprehension, and these type of things. And so reading and taking in information, synthesizing, analyzing, and then being able to give out my own argument came very easy to me. So law school became not easy to me, but it was a path that I was like, either I'm going to do that or I'm going to be in politics and I'm going to DC.
Oh, wow.
Or I'm going to do both. So I'm a political science major, sociology minor.
Okay, look at you.
That's where I was going. I was going to be a lobbyist, actually.
Okay.
But then I found out working in the legal space is actually how you change policy and law. So you need to know them before you go in and try to rewrite them, was my thinking. Okay. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go to law school first, and kind of just fell in love with administrative law, the research portion of it. And it just became a thing. So I had one path, and it kind of veered off into another one. Yeah.
That's amazing. And so that's the attorney side of it, right?
Yes.
And then you also do the real estate, right?
Yes. So that's something that I kind of fell into just on a research, on a hobby type of thing. I hate to say that because I know people do it full time, but I really wanted to buy a house, and I really wanted to do it the right way. And if you've ever bought a house, it's a lot of paperwork and information and asking about interest rates and how much money you got, how much money your mama got. And it's just it's just a lot. So I was just like, okay, I don't really want to go into this blind, and I would love to rely on professionals. And I even tell people who use me all the time, always have your own research or something to ask a question, have some basis behind what you're doing. You don't need to know it all, which is why you're hiring the professional in the first place. But go in with some type of, base knowledge. And so that's what I did. I took 4 or 5 months after I was like, okay, I think this is really what I want to do. Figured it out, went through the process, and I'm like, okay, I could do this again. And I could do it again. And so I kind of just been going in that realm. So every other year, since I do W-2 income as well as my self-employed, I buy a property if I can, just to set up my family, especially with historically just tapping into this historically, my people are pretty much disadvantaged when it comes to land ownership and land in general. And that is a key component to wealth building. And that's not something that we all talk about, because buying a house is arduous. Yes, it is. But it's super important if you want to leave something behind. It's one of the key ways that you can do so. And so I wanted to make sure that, if I had kids, or if my sisters had kids, or my family, that they wouldn't start from scratch, or getting their first apartment. No, you can have this house, or you can have this land to do with whatever. And that cuts out, honestly, about 30% of people's debt, or where their income goes. Okay. And so that can be put in savings, investments, just, a business, a bunch of other things that they won't have to worry about. Okay. So that was my thought process, and that's how I got into real estate.
Jeez. Okay. How many like plots of land are you?
Right now, three.
QK.
So so my
Let's go.
I have 2 single families. Basically 3 single families, but I want to turn one into a duplex. So I'm looking for a multifamily, and that's a whole other ball game.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Let's go. Yeah. Okay. You better own stuff. Let's go.
Trying. The bank kind of owns it with me right now, so I can't say I own it outright yet, but it's coming.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And so, now, we already said attorney side. We said the real estate side.
Yes.
Okay, and then also we do coaching. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Tell us about the coaching. What do you do? You offer classes?
It's funny you should say.
Yeah.
Because that is where I'm trying to kind of break into next with the business side. So I have a business, QKI Consulting, where basically how I've labeled myself has been head attorney / consultant. Yeah. Just kind of, again, I really like to synthesize information, analyze, and see how I can how can we make this better? Right. But recently, especially, so things got hot and heavy after the pandemic, which was really cool because there were so many entrepreneurs coming out of everywhere, right? But also, when you're an entrepreneur, you take the risk of you're DIYing your business pretty much. Right. And sometimes people take DIY a business into, I'm going to do everything myself instead of I'm going to figure out how to get something done by myself.
That's good.
That doesn't mean that you don't use professionals.
That one more time. Hold on. You said, say that one more time.
Yes. So I think people get confused when it's DIY, like doing it all yourself versus figuring out how to do something, get it done.
That's called delegating, people.
Yes.
Let's go.
Yes, 100%.
Yes. Okay.
And it sounds simple, but when you're delegating something that you really love, or that's something close to you, it's just kind of like putting your child out there. Like, okay, I know you know what you're doing, but can you tell me that you really know what you're doing? And at first, that was really off-putting, because I'm coming from a traditional field where it's just like you're expected to know what you know and then be able to say it. And you're not really questioned after a certain period. Well, in this side, it's just like people are like, yeah, but I'm paying you though. And I'm like, you're supposed to. So
right. This ain't for free.
Right. It's just like, what?
Yeah.
But kind of wrapping my mind around that, I understand from an entrepreneurial perspective myself, because it's just like, I get it. You're giving a lot of yourself plus something that you're building in an infancy stage that creates vulnerability. And so it became more so of talking about the business side and how you do the business, taking the steps, processes, and logistics to, okay, where's your mind at with this? Like, where do you want to go? Where do you want to scale? Do you want to be working this every day like a 9 to 5? Or do you want to set it and forget it type of business where you're getting some passive income so you can do something else? So kind of setting those parameters took like more of a counseling part of it, which now I kind of associate with coaching, which I used to shy away from that. I'm like, I'm not a coach. Like, I have a traditional setting of what I do. This is not. But it ended up being a very encouraging thing, and I think naturally I want to encourage, because I'm like, you can do this. It's hard, but like, you got this. Let's just figure out how you can do it. You don't need to do it all by yourself. You know, you just need to figure out what the steps are, because it's your business. No one can tell you how to run your own business, but I can for sure help you figure out where you need to go and get you people who will also help to do the same thing, right? And so the consulting has really morphed, especially honestly 2023, ending of 2022. I had to really evaluate like how I wanted my own business to go, because I saw a need, and I was, like I said, I was shying away from the coaching thing, because I'm like, no, I'm a consultant, I'm an attorney, we have this this box you have to be in. And I was kind of talking about it before. I was kind of struggling with, you need a niche. You need something that you can wrap up, tie nice. And it's true, you don't want to confuse. But at the same time, being able, these things all work together. And I truly believe, like, you need the mindset piece, you need the business piece, you need the belief piece. Like, all of these things are very important for you to move forward and be successful. And by success, not necessarily meaning, you know, people are giving you money or you're Insta famous or all these things, but like success is just like, are you happy at the end of the day? Like, do you feel good with what you accomplished, you know, throughout your time frame or throughout your day? Or are you feeling like, wow, I don't really know what I'm doing or why I'm doing it or why I'm here. And to me, that's not success if you don't have that sense of like grounding, centering with yourself.
Purpose.
Yeah, exactly. It has to be there. And a lot of people are like, oh, I'm just in this to make money. It's just like, well, that doesn't work because if you're just in it to make money, this is hard. So once it gets hard, there's a lot of ways to make money that are not so hard. And then some people are like, oh, I'm not in it for the money at all. And I'm just like, that's kind of silly because if you were not in it for the money, you wouldn't have started a business. Exactly. You know what I mean? So it's like, we need to come to a middle ground where money is not your enemy, but you're not working yourself into the ground.
100%. So, To be even more transparent with you, okay, QK, I'm terrible at delegating. And so I may need some coaching. Hey, man, I don't need you shaking your head. Yes. Come on,
he's like, Taylor. I can co-sign that for sure.
Because I mean, we have these conversations all the time about like entrepreneurship, and like it's not meant for everybody.
Absolutely not.
And
absolutely
if
not.
you don't have that type of grind about it, then you know what I'm saying, you're definitely gonna fall through the cracks in year 2. You know what I'm saying?
And you said a mouthful right there, because it's not that first year. It's definitely that. Okay, we're actually doing this now. Yes.
Right. Yeah. And so it's not just built on passion anymore. It's built on what's the longevity of it, and so you may have to teach me some delegating techniques.
I'm here. That's what I'm here for. I will tell you one thing. You're not alone. That's probably one of the number one reasons. So don't feel bad. That's like one of the number one things that I have to talk to people about, especially when you really love what you do. It's almost as if, how could I delegate a piece of it? Like, no, I have to do this part. No, I have to do this part.
I think we say delegating, but it's also like a mixture between delegating and trust.
Absolutely. Right? 100%.
Like you have to be able to trust somebody to be able to delegate that, right? And so, I mean,
it's a big deal.
It's huge.
And looking at it from, I try to take it a little bit away, which is kind of with a lot of things now that I'm thinking about it, but taking away the emotion a little bit out of it and saying, if you started a business in order to profit and scale, is it fair for you to take away your own success by trying to do more things that you need to not do? So if your time is better spent running the business than answering the phone, wouldn't you run the business and get somebody else to answer the phone, which in turn makes you more money, which is the whole point of the business side. So that is kind of the process of elimination that we can go through. It would be
on our side, since we're a nonprofit organization, ours would be the flip. It's not making more money, it's impacting more lives.
Yes. So, same. And you can take the equation and move it around, but the purpose always has to come to the forefront of what is being done. And sometimes the purpose suffers because, you're kind of looking at the forest and not seeing the trees. Like, okay, how do we back up? We need to back up so that we can get back into this properly.
Did you hear that? Whoa, we need to time clock that one. Yeah, that was good.
I love it.
Let's go, QK.
Listen, I'm full of these things. Full of these things.
And you say that you're a big researcher. So where did this come from? Where did you just have a natural gift to? I just want to gather information.
I think it also comes from being. I'm a first. How do I say this? Because I think I said it wrong the other day. I'm first generation as far as immigrant parents, and so they made a huge emphasis. Nigerian. Okay. I'm looking at the camera because that's enough said. So I have. If you know, you know. So my parents were very much academic, and I actually, up until I got older, I didn't even realize it myself as to why, and it's because education for them is such a huge deal because it's a life changer. Like where they come from your education, your way for you to make money for yourself, the way for you to advocate, speak, talk, write. These things make a huge difference between the type of life that you have, not just, you know, if you can get a good job or not, as it is here. And so them coming up in that environment, they kind of instilled that into me, knowingly or unknowingly. And so I was just like, okay, well, the way that I, which is not the best way of things, but the way that I receive appreciation and validation and, you know, just being known is you do good in school, you make good grades, you're smart, you can, you know things, help us with things, be able to do certain things. And as a young kid, just trying to figure out things that more adults would do, just because my parents are immigrants, although they understand how to fully function in a society, it's very different when you come in with an accent or you come in from a different country and you do things very differently than how things are done here. So to make things smooth, you know, knowing some things or how to do some things really helps the house. And so that just kind of grew over time. And it's always been something that, like, yeah, we're gonna call Quarry, we're gonna call QK because she's gonna help us out and help us to get to wherever we're trying to get to. And so that kind of came from like a family thing. And at first I was just like, man, this is a lot. Can I not call somebody else? You know, it was just like a bit of a burden. But then it's a blessing. It's such a blessing because that helps when it comes to other people. So much more empathy. And not saying that, you know, just woe is the way that I do my research is more people focused, but it kind of is because I understand the importance of having information versus not having it. And sometimes that makes a huge difference. And it's not just about the money, it's peace of mind. You know what I mean? The way that you can go about your life more easily, the confidence even that having a little more info than what you would have had does for you. It's really cool to see that in people. And so I have always just loved being able to research, and even the effect it's had in my own life, being able to do some of the things that I do. It wasn't because I was just in school. It was because, you know what, I need to actually take the extra mile and figure this out. So let me use my strengths of being able to comprehend, being able to analyze things, and then being able to help people out. Because honestly, at the end of the day, even with the business, remember, like we were talking about, when it gets hard, you got to figure out like why you're doing what you're doing. I feel like no matter what it is, even if sometimes my clients don't see it like this, I think everything we do is for people. It's for the service of others. It's never really for our own personal gain. Even if we happen to personally gain from it, the core of what we're doing is to give out, whether that's with music or whether that's with business or whether that's, you know, with retail, whatever. You're making things for other people. And so the more that you focus on the people versus too much of what you're doing, it ends up making what you're doing so much better that you go harder just because you want to put something cold, you know, into the world. And so that to me is how I see everything in business. If there's no people-centric part of your business, something is off because you're not focusing on really what your primary purpose should be, which is in service of people. Whether you're a service-based business or a product-based business, you're doing something for somebody else.
That's real. That's real. Because a lot of people, like, you know, tack up the, you know, their business and they look at other people as dollar signs, not as actual people. You know, and so once you flip that, I feel like it makes it more intentional. And then your goal for, you know, these people, the profit is going to come, or whatever is going to come from that, regardless, because you're impacting people. So
don't even have to worry about it. It's going to come natural.
That's good.
Absolutely.
Okay. We're really into this thing. That's what's up. So, I mean, right now, I mean, you mentioned a lot. Okay. So for the people out there, you know, a lot of this, even, you know, whenever you're talking about the consulting side of it too, I mean, you were even hinting around like a little bit of the mental health aspect of it, right?
Absolutely.
And so even coming out of the, you know, the pandemic, but then just in general, you know, dealing with clients and everything like that, what are some things that you kind of see that, even like on the mental health side, like how do you coach somebody that's like, you know, dealing with a hard time through their business or anything like that, or just even them personally, you know, they're trying to figure out like, dang, should I keep doing this business or anything like that? How do you coach through that?
Yeah, that's a good question, because that's something that that comes up a lot, and I have to ask myself that question myself as to whether I feel qualified to dive into it too much. So I'll always say, you know, sometimes dealing with some of the mental health issues that can come up in business, going to a professional that is designated for that type of work. So whether that be, a therapist, psychologist, whatever it is, to have somebody like that and not feel the stigma of feeling like, oh, I need someone to help me figure out, what I'm doing. I should be able to do it myself. I think with entrepreneurs, that's like the number one thing. Like, oh, I should be able to do this. I should be able to figure it out. I'm able to do everything else, especially like we said, that sweet spot of hitting that 3, 4, 5 year mark. You get very kind of invested in versus, remember, you're not doing anything really by yourself. You're really relying, again, whether it's your faith or whether it's your community or whether it's your family, whatever is your core beliefs. Truly, you have to go back to that and really use that as like a compass. And I think a lot of the times when people ask that question of like, I don't really know if I should keep going or if I should stop, usually it's financial that they say that it is, like, I'm not making as much money, or I'm tired, or I don't think this is working out. And it's like, okay, but why? And a lot of, but why? And why did you start in the first place? Well, I was really, hyped about making this thing up, and I was going to do this, and I was going to make changes, and I didn't see anybody doing this. And then the next question is, what happened? What happened to that? Where did that go? Because it must have got caught up in, maybe it got caught up in the numbers, maybe it got caught up in the people, maybe it got caught up in, a bunch of different things. But family, even it's not necessarily always bad. Like sometimes life just happens. But remember what your purpose is and having a process to where you can always get back to that. And sometimes when I say process, people are like, that's not me. I'm a creative. I don't do process, or that structure you're talking about. It's not really my jam. And I'm like, I get that.
They hear process and they think they don't hear the patience part of it, right? So
definitely that. But and also thinking about, just because you think something is one way doesn't mean that's how you have to implement it. Because all the time I'm like, I used to say all the time, I'm not creative. People are like, what do you mean? You're creating these different ways and avenues of doing all of this stuff. And I'm like, I never looked at it like that. And so I like flipping that and just being, yes, exactly. The perspective of, if you're a creative, then you're always going to be creative no matter what you do. So just because you're creating a process doesn't mean it needs to be stiff and in line and something you're never going to stick to. Make it work with your creative process.
And we were built to create.
Absolutely.
So no matter who you are, if you think that you are creative or not, you were meant to create something.
Absolutely. So, and technically you are. You're creating your day. You're creating your experiences. You're creating how someone sees you on a regular basis. We get to dictate sometimes the light that we show to other people. It's not necessarily just like, oh, I have to find it. Like finding purpose. It's there. It's there within you. You decide if you're going to share that light huge, or you're going to dim that down, or you're going to, I'm going to chill today, whatever it is. That's a decision that you make on a regular basis. And a lot of that too, a lot of that is a mindset thing, and it comes to how much time do you spend, in your sacred places, intentionally starting off your day, whether that is, in your prayer or in your meditation or whatever you use to center yourself. How much time do you spend doing that? And a lot of times, I can almost bet money. It's like, oh, I don't have time for that. I don't have time to do that anymore. Or I used to do that, but I don't do it anymore because such and such happened. And it's like, okay, but that time is especially if you're running your sole business and you don't have a partner or somebody like that, that's genuinely the only time you have to really think. That's the only time that you have to really go through the certain things that are happening. Maybe change your perspective on something based off of whatever's going on. And if you take that away from yourself, what do you have then? You have a lot of questions, a lot of anxiety, a lot of go, until you're like, wait, why am I going? Where am I going? What is this supposed to be doing for me again? Especially not having a process written down. And a lot of times I suggest business plans to people. I'm like, just go back to your business plan or write a new one. I've been in business for like forever. I don't need a business plan. And I'm like, you don't need it, but it can be a compass, and it's ever changing. And so when you do a business plan, it's not something that you kind of, okay, I did my business plan, stick it in the corner. It's kind of like something to pull back out and be like, okay, I remember where I was when I wrote this, or I remember what my purpose is. You can look down here and be like, that's why we do what we do, and turn it around and be like, okay, I need help. This is why I did what I did. Can you look this over and let me know? And I'm like, these are the things that will help you when you do feel those lulls, you do feel those down parts. It's not the only thing, but tools to help in some of those spaces. So that kind of like, how do I keep going, or should I keep going? It's more so of, we kind of flip that back. Like, okay, why should you keep going? What is it that made you start it in the first place?
Have you run across any people that, like, you know, it's been, you know, that struggle moment, but you were able to bring somebody back to that purpose?
I want to say I've had some bring back moments, but I haven't had somebody who's just like, I'm ready to quit. I'm just ready to stop. They're more so, when they come to me, they're kind of like, I'm getting there.
Right.
I'm at that point, but I think I just need this. And so they kind of come in with like, this is what I think my solution would be. How do I get to that? And we kind of have to backtrack. Like, that may help you temporarily, but let's look at this long-term scale. Right. What do you want this business to look like? I did talk to a lady recently, actually, and I'm really excited because I had implemented into my business maybe a year, maybe not even up to a year before. But she was having some issues financially, and it was because she was not paying herself first. She wasn't paying herself at all, but she definitely wasn't making profit, something to pour back into her business. And the reason it was is because she wanted her business to succeed. So she's like, I'm putting everything I have into it. And I'm like, I completely understand that. But understand, if you don't change your mindset, it's not about what I don't care what you pay yourself. That's not the point. The point is to have a mentality of, I know my business will do well. I know this will work out for me. I'm trusting, I'm leaning on this faith, this purpose, this God-given dream. And I know it's going to work out. So I'm going to take at least the leap of saying, I'm going to take this out for myself. And to do that on a periodic basis. And then I gave her the flip side, which is, from a business perspective, if you want to buy things as an entrepreneur, you can't look like you don't make any money on paper. It does not work that way. So it'd just be like going into the bank and they're like, well, what's your income? And they're like, oh, I have this business. And they're like, I didn't ask you that. I asked you what's your income. You know what I mean?
Answer the question.
Answer what I'm asking. And they're like, oh, I don't have any other income. And they're like, well, we can't help you. Gotta do something else. Sorry about you. But it works on both sides, because it does change the perspective of like, okay, I do have faith in what I'm doing. I can do this differently. Changes your whole budgeting perspective from a financial side. And then it also helps from a personal side, because now you don't have to work 2 and 3 jobs. You can kind of work maybe that one and make it look like, okay, I'm able to do this. And your expenses, and every time I've done this, it's so fun, because it's like your expenses change, because what you thought you had to put money into, all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, I guess that could wait maybe 6 months, or I guess I could find a more resourceful way to do this, or maybe I do need to go check those prices again. And it just makes your expenses, you grow with your business instead of your business outgrowing you. And that is a key thing, because sometimes people will let their business like take off way before, have no way to like grind it in. And I'm like, you kind of have to round in that business. You're the wrangler, pretty much. No one is going to do that for you. Or you get somebody who will, and kind of go over the expenses. And that's where you see big companies growing, scaling, or somebody growing fast, quote unquote. Because you grow along with your business. You don't let your business like take you for a ride.
Definitely. I think like that's what I mean. I don't know. Even when you're with your experiences, because you've started a couple businesses. Is your mic on?
No.
Excellent. Should we turn it on?
We can.
Excellent. Because I mean, this would be great for you, because you are a entrepreneur, and you've started how many businesses?
5.
Oh yes. Okay.
5
serial
businesses.
entrepreneur. Yes.
In the worst term.
No.
But he's out here, you know.
That's the thing. The thing.
And even with that whole concept is like, I mean, you start how many businesses, and then how are you able to, like, as a attorney and all that kind of stuff? How are you able to manage that type? You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
it is. It's a bit of a struggle and a catch-22, because it's like I have to take my own advice, because it's easy to
you're
like
doing the same thing.
So it's just like, oh, okay, this is working out. I'm just gonna start doing this, and I'm like, oh wait, you didn't get your paperwork together. You don't have your bank accounts right. You're commingling stuff. Get it together. Get it together. I know. And so I have to like get in that mode with myself, because I'll get excited. So like when I first started doing the housing stuff, I see how people are like, well, I want to test it out and see if this is gonna work first. test. And testing out could be a year, can be 2 years, it could be, and it's just like, no, you can't do that. You have to do things the right way. Because say it does take off or you do really well or whatever, you got everything set in place. This is exactly what you tell your clients. Don't wait to set yourself up. Just do it right from the beginning. And then you don't have to think about it. And so that is how I like try to compartmentalize. And then I think and see things in business terms. So I have a W-2 job and I have had one for a while. I went self-employed for a minute just by myself. And I was like, man, this is intense right here. This is no joke. And kind of like playing that role of on the fence.
So what is the W-2 business? What does that do exactly?
So that's just like traditional work. So I'm an attorney, like just at a law firm as well. So I do that. And basically our main work is mortgages, foreclosures, debt consolidation, litigation, like just that's the main gig. But it funnels into how I do my consulting because I don't look at my, what I would say traditional work as just a regular employee, even though that's what I am. I'm looking at it as like, okay, what processes, procedures, things can I put in place to one, make this job more efficient, but two, I'm looking at it from how's everybody that I touch doing it. So from the paralegal to the person who does the mail to all of this stuff. And sometimes I'm like, I don't need to be doing I don't need to be doing all of this. But at the same time, that's the mentality now. It's just like, if you're seeing one layer of it by being an employee, there's like 3, 4, 5 layers to what you're doing. As an entrepreneur, you have to see all of those levels. You have to see, because you're in place, you're employing people, you're contracting, you're making sure stuff is running. And so, I think the toughest part for me would just be making sure that I'm setting the businesses up correctly and properly in the way that I know that they should, making sure people have contracts and different things like this when they're touching businesses. And it makes a different way of just doing things, talking to people, adding people on. There's some people who are like, I don't do business like this. And I'm like, well, this is how the only way. This is the only way you really should be doing it. I'm like, okay, let's talk about this more. There we go. We have a client.
Right. Right. Go ahead and cut the check. That's right. Okay. Taylor, with your 5 businesses, bro, I think that this would be a good time for you to ask some questions, man. Because you are a serial entrepreneur with your wonderful businesses, and you have QK right here. Is there anything that you do currently? I mean, we talk about entrepreneurship all the time. So, I mean, you got anything?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that comes to mind for me, and the thing that I struggled with the most when I was getting started and starting businesses, is like, when's the right time, right? For me, I started. I think it was 5 businesses in 3 years. Right. Wow. Super fast, back to back to back to back to back.
Right. That's wild.
And so, I would highly recommend no one do that. Right, going through it. So for people out there that might have 19 ideas sitting here ready to go, what would your advice be to them to roll that out into a practical plan?
Oh, that's beautiful. First of all, congratulations. I commend you, because that is a different type of level of like 5 beats of summer. I'm thinking of like Kanye West, like in my room, banging them out. But the way that I approach it, because I'm like that too. Like I'll hear an idea or see something and I'm like, oh, I can make that work. One thing that I try to really stick to myself and also to clients, have discipline. And not just the discipline to know that something will be successful or something will work out, but stick something out properly. That means from the jump to however long that you're going to be in it, whether you're going to scale it to be and stay in it, or whether you're scaling it for acquisition or you're scaling it to partner and move on, whatever it is that you're trying to do, to have the discipline to stick with it and do it properly. Because what I find is that when you try and multitask, and I'm probably going to get a lot of like boos, but I am not a fan of multitasking. I'm just not. I think focus is a lost art. And when I say focus, like really focusing and listening, those 2 things, that's real. Those are 2 of the lower things that I see, because we're just ready. We're ready to go. There's so many things to look at. There's so much information to take in. And not that that's a bad thing, but you don't really get the beauty of being an expert or taking in a craft or really being like, no, this is what I do, and having that real pride behind it. Because kind of like what you said, it took a while for me to do certain things because I really wanted to know that when I'm talking about it, I can tell you about it, not just kind of like, oh yeah, this is cool, but I want you to see all these other things. You know what I mean? Right. And so with your question, I think it takes discipline to have focus in one idea being fleshed out into not just an idea, but now it's a concept, and from a concept into an actual product or service that you're able to advertise. And then from there, you're able to see the kinks and the things that need to be fix those things, and really, again, serve the people that you are going to either that's going to consume your product or that you're going to serve in some way, shape, or form. And I think that slows down the thought process of like, it doesn't mean you don't do those things. It just means some things stay on the shelf. And I heard on a podcast, it was like, if you're in the shower or wherever and you get your ideas and you write them down, give it 6 months. Give it at least 6 to 8 months. And if you still are like, yes, this is something I really want to do, especially if you're already doing something, then go ahead and find a way to figure that out. But if it's not like a burning desire, like, I could do that, but then I also have this other idea, and you haven't even gone that 6 months without, right. That's when it's just like, okay, maybe it's just you write these things down, put a timeline on them, and again, flush them out. And if you get to a point where you can flesh it out and you have a partner or somebody else who's going to be like, all right, I can pick up where you left off. Go ahead, dude, you're good. Then you can then get to that next idea and still give it what you got, and then do the same thing over and over again. Because again, entrepreneur doesn't mean I do by myself. I'm a one-man band. And I think sometimes people get that confused. Like, you are the entrepreneur. The ideas are you. But sometimes that's what you are good at, is the ideas, is the generation, is the... I run this stuff, and then I figure out who else is going to do those small things of putting it all together. And that's awesome too. But knowing what your plan is, like not just going in blind. So yeah, that would kind of be my long-winded answer to that.
No, that's great. That's great. When, practically speaking, right? So let's say you have 2 ideas, you set them for 6 months, ready to go, you roll out one. When would be, practically speaking, like, not even necessarily have to put like a number or anything on that, but like, when would be the right time for you to execute the second idea or the third idea, and so on and so forth?
I think that would be one preference, and then what resources you have to work with. Because say, for example, you start that first one. To me, starting the first is always going to be the hardest because you have to build out your resources, you build out your team, you build out your relationships, connections. Also, being an entrepreneur, your relationships are so important. Like how you show up, how you connect, how people perceive you as a person. It makes rolling out a business so much easier when you're like, oh yeah, I can call this person, this person, and this person. They can do X, Y, Z. Simple. In a first business, it may have taken you the whole 6 months just to do that, just to figure out, okay, I need these resources, and also not reinventing the wheel every time you start a business. Yeah. So if you know, okay, it took me about 10 months to figure out how to do this business, it'll take me roughly maybe about 5 or 6 months to get this one to where this is now, based off of the resources, information, and people that I know now. You can keep rolling them out because you're not going to hit that burnout point. You're not starting from scratch over and over and over again. So I think the short way of saying that is it really is dependent upon how you run your businesses. I think there's a difference between a product-based business and a service-based business. Yeah, for sure. Also, if your businesses go together. Yeah. So if you're doing marketing, studio, music, also equipment, rentals, all of these things kind of go together. You don't really have to start afresh for those businesses to work, but they need to be separate because you're bringing in income from different places. So if it's like that, then it's just like, okay, you could start up those businesses 6 months, year and a half, another 2 years. Yeah, it makes sense to have those businesses because they're all linked together. You know what your resources are. That's the same industry. But if you're like, I'm going to do clothes, and then I'm going to turn around and have a plumbing business, and then I'm going to turn around and do this, and I'm going to write contracts, and I'm also going to cut hair on the side. It's just like, okay, what are we trying to do here? Is the purpose to make money, or are these like genuine, true interests? How about you sell that idea? Start it up, get it to where it needs to be, because again, you have the resources and the people. It's almost, I don't know, for me, it's like uncanny. I will have some idea or hear something, I'll meet somebody, and I'm like, you know what? I was thinking about this. This would be perfect for you. let me go ahead and tell you how much I've already done and see if you're interested. Let's just see if you're interested.
Yeah.
People underestimate the value of an idea that someone else can use and run with, and you still get to be a part of it. Maybe you're a silent partner. Maybe you sell the idea at its whole conception. But the fact is that time, that information, your labor is worth something. And that doesn't mean just because you have that idea, you have to implement it. Yeah. Sometimes that idea is for you to utilize for somebody else. But that's also my mindset. I'm just like, how can I get more things off my plate? Yeah. How can I help somebody else? Because I don't see the ideas not coming. Yeah. I don't see them stopping in any way, shape, or form. And I feel like when your plate is full. Mm-hmm. When you have enough right now to deal with and to take on. And what I don't recommend is taking on so much that things get sloppy.
Right.
Or that you get tired, or that you start to make mistakes in your business that you otherwise wouldn't have made.
Yeah.
Simply by taking on more. And it's not that the more is too much for you. It's that you just know that it's not always just for you. Sometimes it's for somebody else. You know what I mean? So I think that's a question that I think people have to answer for themselves based off of how much they can do. And also not making it I'm going to own 10, because it's very easy to own 10 businesses and still basically be in the same industry. You know what I mean? Yeah, and I know, if you're a serial entrepreneur, you understand, there's so many ancillary things that start to come in and you're like, I'm not going to hire somebody for that. I could easily make this connect. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so that can turn into a bunch of businesses anyway. But again, it's that discipline to stay focused in what you're doing to even see those opportunities. Because there will be other things that come in that could low-key be distractions to what you're really doing. You know what I mean? Yeah.
How do you, everything that you just said spurred on several different questions. I'm just gonna start with one. Right. When, so you talked about the power of relationships in the beginning of a business, right? Mm-hmm. How, let's say someone's, 18, 19 years old right now, wants to start a business, doesn't have the connections, doesn't have the relationships with people to really establish that, doesn't have the family background, doesn't have the professional background, they're nothing, right? No relationship status at all. How do you go about finding those relationships that will make entrepreneurship successful?
That's so good. Okay, so for me, that low-key, that was me. I didn't have any attorneys in my family. I had some friends who their parents kind of were lawyers, sort of, and I'm like, can I shadow? What can I do? But it took me a while to figure out, one, this is why mental health is so important, because I think sometimes it's hard for people to give of themselves without feeling like I need to get something back. Or what am I going to get back? Or what if I don't get anything out of it? What if I go and I expend this effort and they're like, thanks, kid. Next. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I feel like a lot of times, especially because we have so much access to information, it's like, well, my time is valuable. What I have to offer is valuable. I'm hungry, I'm ready, I can do all of this stuff. I should have some type of respect. I don't think there should be a disrespect there, but I do think there should be a willingness to give. If you don't have a willingness to give, and that means your time, it doesn't mean money, it doesn't mean financially, monetarily what you can give, but literally just being I am young and I do have stuff to offer and I am smart. I can help you in some way, shape, or form. Let me figure that out. Take that energy of I should be getting and turn it into what can I do? What can I do to make this relationship beneficial for both parties? Because I know that I will benefit from being able to shadow or being able to be in the room or simply just being there, being able to make a connection. But understanding when you walk into a room, you always have something to give. You always have something to contribute. And it doesn't have to be with your money. It could be, I can move your chairs around after this meeting is done. You will be surprised on just being able to stay after or be there early or volunteer your time, volunteer a fact, or be able to do something for someone, how that can get you into so many spaces. And it's not even about the transaction of, okay, I was able to successfully do that or successfully talk to the person. They just see that and they're like, what can I help you with? What can I do? Simply because you took the effort, the initiative. Yeah. So if you're starting from ground zero, you still have something. Yeah. Even if you don't have the connections, you don't have the money, you don't have the expertise, you don't have that. but you have the hunger of like, this is what I want to do. Use that and figure out a way. How can I be helpful? How can I give something of value? And understanding mentally, I always have something of value to give. No matter where it is, even if everybody in the room is smarter than me, there's something that I can give. My youth, my connection to my community, something about the way that I speak, my faith, when I show up, how I'm able to kind of see the spaces in the room that need help. Coming from a service job, I used to be so intimidated going into networking events because I'm like, I don't really know what I'm doing here. I'm used to like helping. Can I help you, sir? You know, can I hold the door open? And I had to get out of that. But at the same time, I would just see things that would need to be done. Like, I see you were having that snack over there. They have some of this over here. I want to come and bring you some. How are you doing? These little things. And instead of being embarrassed about it, being able to utilize these things for good, for a purpose. And it helped me not be nervous. And I'm like, okay, I can do something. So instead of focusing so much on my nervousness, I get to focus on, okay, what can I do in the room? And it turned into just now giving is easy. The value, just like, my family sometimes they're like, you give a lot away for free. Why do you give all this away for free? And it's just like, because it's coming back. It's coming back like tenfold. And it doesn't even matter where it comes back from. It always comes back. And I live by that. So that's one of the things I say that to the kids too. Your relationship with money, financially, and all of these things is going to be directly correlated to how much value you really see in yourself. It's never about the money. It's never about the materialistic thing. Yes, have your goals, do what you do and attain what you want to attain. But know that has nothing to do with how valuable you are as a person.
That's real.
So, yeah.
I think two things right there. One, knowing that you always have something to give. Always. Where do you find that self-worth? Because I know for me, especially in the beginning and even recently, like walking into a room of people that are way ahead of me, right? And going and coming in and being like, oh, what do I have to offer to these people, right? So personally in my journey, I think the main thing that has held me back in my entrepreneurial journey is my self-worth. You know what I'm saying? And so how do you find that to establish that in order to continue moving forward?
That's so good. That's a heavy one.
Low key comes from the mental health side of it.
It does. I will tell you. I can only say, like, for me personally, I would tell you it comes from, and this is work. I'm not even going to say this lightly. It's heavy. It's work, but finding something to be grateful for, and then taking that gratitude and knowing that, okay, this is something that I have built over time, or this is something that I'm just truly blessed with. And because I'm blessed with that, maybe I can help somebody else. And it's not even like a for sure. You know what I mean? Like anytime that I go into, and this is, I guess, like a hack or whatever, but like I've been doing more speaking gigs and it makes me uncomfortable because I'm like, I'm young. A lot of times, I'm young relatively to the people that I'm going in a lot of times and speaking to. The people that I work with, usually youngest, sitting on boards, all of this stuff. I'm like, who do these people think that I am? Like, exactly. What do they talk? What are they talking about?
You're QK,
and then and that's what they say. They're like, "Oh, you're dope. You're this. You do all this stuff." And I'm like, "Okay, today." But you didn't see me at home breaking down like 20 minutes ago.
Right. You didn't see me in the car having a panic
attack. Like literally about to like
trying to pump yourself up.
Man, when I tell you, I used to leave events often. Like I would get there, be like, "I'm not doing this." And go home.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Like, often. To the point where it's just like, I had to stop doing that. And that's why I was like, okay, they've asked me to, and this is like being asked to go somewhere. Like, they're like, we want you to come and do such and such. Get up there. And I'm like, no. I don't know why you're asking me. Like, there's somebody else better for this. But I had to get out of that to find what I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for where I come from. Because a lot of it comes from, I can't say nothing because I hate sometimes when people say that, but I come from where we really had to work for what we had. The world that I'm in now is really like, I grew up, we were in foster care. Like we had some crazy stuff just happening in our family to where even if I wouldn't have made it to where I am, just making it, like being able to have a job and have a place to stay was a huge deal.
Yeah.
And so moving past that, and that's no longer the thought process, that's a blessing, because you don't know people who you're speaking to don't even know what that world is like.
Yeah.
And so when you speak from your heart, and you speak from where you come from, and you're giving from a place deep inside that some people can't even tap into. That is how you have your worth and your value, because you literally, your life experience is giving something to somebody that they otherwise would not have. You know what I mean? And so if looking at where can I be grateful based off of where I came from, where can I be grateful based off of where I am right now, and how can I be grateful about where I'm going, and then using those perspectives. Yeah. And I don't think any two people have the same perspective, to be quite honest, on anything.
No.
And so that right there is enough to show value, to be like, okay, in my craft, I know I put in the work.
Yeah.
I put in the time. I put in the dedication for this. So even if you're more ahead of me, maybe you had somebody teach you. Right. And it's not about putting another person down based off of where they are, but just not also putting yourself down based off of where they are. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it goes both ways.
Yeah.
So if you would never cut somebody down based off of like, well, they probably, got paid, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't do it to yourself.
Right.
Don't do it to be like, well, the only reason I'm here is because, they kind of liked me that one time.
Sure.
And and we do it. We do that
yeah.
all the time, like make excuses for why we're in the room and call it imposter syndrome. And it's just like, we'll stop making the excuse and figure out how to just be in the room.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that's what I had to do to start not leaving events. Just show up.
Oh, yeah.
Just show up. And if you can just walk in the room and show up, then it's like going to the gym sometimes, it's just like, just get there.
I got just in the parking lot today.
You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes it's like that
real,
though. It's just like, I just gotta get there. I just gotta show up. I'm gonna talk to one person.
Yeah.
I'm gonna at least stay until they start talking, or I'm gonna at least stay till halftime, or I'm at least, you know what I mean? Like these little bitty goals. But while you're there, also making it a point to be like, because those are the practical things. Right. Sometimes that self-talk will get in your ear and you're like, I don't care what I thought I had to bring to the table. I don't got to bring it no more. Right. I don't have it to bring no more. And sometimes it's just like, just get to one person.
Yeah.
Just talk to the one person at your table.
Yeah.
Get to your table. Okay, get something to drink. Yeah. Walk to the food table. These things, like literally taking into account, and then someone will say hi,
right?
Or, hey, how are you doing? Or didn't you do such and such? Or, you know what I mean? And it kind of puts you back into the room. It takes you out of your mind and into the room. So sometimes it's just like, just get in the room.
Yeah, I
think.
Sorry. No, you could go.
What do you want to say? Sorry.
I was going to say, I think like just being present in the room is one of the biggest things. It's still something that I struggle with today. People will invite me to things and I'm just like,
yeah.
No thanks.
Yeah.
Well, you never know where that one connection will come from. For example, my biggest business connection that I've ever had in my entire career thus far came from babysitting someone.
See?
My wife was babysitting someone's kids, and I went with her just to hang out. And here's another big key for me is don't be afraid to show and to share what you're doing.
Yes.
Because I fall victim to this all the time. Today even, someone was like, hey, how's life? I'm like, nothing new. Yeah, something new. Like I closed a large deal today, and no one knows that, and I don't even want to talk about it, and I won't even talk to people about it, right?
Yeah.
Like today I even did this, but
I know.
But
what's up?
Like I literally, and I remember this moment. He was just like, "Hey, like, what are you up to?" And for whatever reason, I just shared what I was up to.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, he was like, "Hey, I want you to be connected with this."
There you go.
And then that led to me being in Salt and Mike Carnuccio and connecting with, hundreds of people through that. And has led to a lot of what I'm doing today, right? So you never know, like simple thing from babysitting can get you there, right? Anyway, what
and then also, there's been conversations that we've had, that I've, asked you to maybe be on the podcast.
Why are you doing this to me?
And this is a great time, and I kind of remember. Okay, maybe QK, you can speak on this, but I've heard the words come out of Taylor's mouth. He said, "I don't have anything important to talk about."
Oh my gosh!
And I sit there flabbergasted.
You're doing this to me live.
Oh,
as I.
Taylor. But then, hold on, check this. Him and his other friend, okay, that lives here, will make a funny podcast and make goofy videos. So he's not uncomfortable being on camera, right, QK?
I mean, I would say so.
So it comes from something that maybe you think that is the worth part of it.
Yeah.
And you
100%.
know what? You're getting on here. And this
Make
is the
it
first
happen.
step.
Yes.
Oh, goodness.
I
It's
love it.
on camera now.
On
But
camera.
anyway, QK, you for real are amazing. Full of
thank you.
not only energy, information, but for real, like purpose.
Yeah.
And I truly appreciate your time, you coming out here and talking to the
Absolutely.
people. For real, if there is any person, or if you see yourself, like if you were to talk to yourself 10 years ago, I don't know how old you are, but had 10 years ago, or your childhood self, if you were to talk to yourself, what would be something that you can inspire and leave with that person, your young QK self?
Oh man, what's for you will always be for you, and be easy. Those are the two things. Like literally, I think we're so hard on ourselves. I was so hard on myself. Yeah. And sometimes I'm like, what I needed to be to get to where, I was going. Yeah. But at the same time, I feel it. I feel like sometimes the rushing through, not utilizing relationships that I could have, not sharing when I probably should have.
Yeah.
And mentally, it was just a lot of unlearning. So yeah, what's for you is for you. And you can't, stumble your way out of it unless you really are just stumbling over and over again. And even then it's like, come back in,
Fall down 7 times, get back up.
Get back up. Yeah. Exactly. And yeah, just be easy. Life is already hard enough. And it will do a lot to deter you. Yeah. And just trials and different things that come up, but understanding that if you're committed and you want to win, you're going to win. And so, just be easy and, let what's for you always be for you.
That's good. Where can the people follow you at?
Instagram is where I'm really active right now. So Just Attorney QK is the personal page, and then QKI Consulting LLC is the business side. Yeah. And the website is a really good way to get in touch and just see what's going on. The website is new. I'm very proud. Very happy about that. It is QKIConsultingLLC.com. So please go look around, send a question, put your email in, I'll send you something, all of that. And I'm Just Attorney QK or QK Douglas everywhere. So if you want to find me, I try to make it super easy.
And then what's your podcast called?
My podcast is called IDK Ask QK. It is a business, lifestyle, wellness podcast where I kind of just take all of my research and things that I've looked up and life experiences and just put it in a podcast. And hopefully it's something helpful. It's very much like big sister talking to little sister, which is really how I started the podcast in the first place. So just information and check me out.
Well, QK, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you.
You're amazing. And be sure to follow her on anything and everything.
Yes.
QK Douglas is amazing. So thank you so much for coming through. Do not forget to like, rate, review, subscribe, do all of the things so we can get people's stories out more effectively. This has been Generation Y Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time.